Shan and I met many years ago. Actually not. No, 2 years ago. It feels we've been knowing each other a long time.
I think it's 3.
To say
Maybe up to 3.
Okay, coming up to 3. He knows. So we've met at an online conference, and we kind of stayed in touch. And at some point we thought, okay, well, how about Shan, you come to Estonia? So we got him a Fulbright scholarship last year. So he was staying with us at Tallinn University for a while as a Fulbright scholar. And then since then, I think we can call you frequent Estonian traveler. He keeps coming back. So that we are very happy about. Also, just a little side note here, Shan was featured as a host in the ScreenMe podcast this spring, where he was talking about why teach entrepreneurship to students that are not business students, or put the other way around, why do you want to know anything about entrepreneurship even if you're not a business student? So I'm very much looking forward to Shan's talk. It's always engaging and interesting. Shan, it's your turn. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Rukia. It's very nice. I'm going to give you a hug. And so I bring tidings of great joy. It's all going to change. Okay, so whatever it is you hear, it's all about to change, I think, in a very dramatic way. So that's to the question of who's running these companies. I think it's bound to change dramatically, as well as these technologies I'm going to talk about. I am Shan Branigan. I am going to tell you all that I am a time traveler. Okay, but I'm not this kind of time traveler. I hope there'll be some other references to Back to the Future and the movies, etc. But I'm actually this kind of time traveler. I come here from the past. So you can color me, according to the data, gray and red. Did I get it right? So yeah, I am gray and red. But I work with young people at my school, at the Newhouse School. Actually, with great pride, I will give certain parts about my students, because that's where the impact is. It's not what I'm doing, it's what they end up doing. And if they succeed, then I take credit. That's kind of how it works for me. Like, oh, yeah, I was a part of that. Remember me? No? Okay, I would remember you, so that's all that counts. I'm at the Newhouse School. We are, I like to say, the premier communication school in the United States, with a full array of all of the journalisms, all of the entertainment areas, especially sports, music industry, television, radio, film, yes, radio, which let's just call that podcasting and other audio things, and all of the other skills in the persuasion media. Don't sleep on the persuasion media. Advertising, public relations, I think are really just poised to become media companies. So what I'd like to talk to you about is a little bit about the school, just a little bit. As we have been doing this for a while, and some of you are considering doing media entrepreneurship, I highly encourage it. It is exciting, it's fun. I was talking to some colleagues, new colleagues, who are here from different schools, and it is so empowering to work with students who are saying, well, that's the way it was done. How about if it was done this way? And right now, for the students in the room especially, do that. You've got nothing to lose. Okay, you got something to lose, but not a lot to lose. Let's just be honest. You're young. This is the time to try things. So what we have done is, with the center, I started it in 2011, before a lot of this media entrepreneurship stuff was understood. There was my nose twitching that we're seeing lots of entrepreneurship programs and not seeing ones that are focused on the creative industries. So I also took the point of, let's look at how to teach it differently. So we teach it as a creative endeavor, not as a management function. And I had a colleague of mine says, management means you know the end and you manage to it. Creativity is you start with a blank page. You start with a blank screen. You don't know where it's going to go. As the author, there's a line about an author who comes down in the morning, has been working through the night, And the spouse says, "Why are you so depressed?" He said, "My characters won't do what I tell them." Because you make these characters, you tell this story so well that it becomes bigger than what you want to do with it. That's a creative endeavor. And that is actually how we approach doing entrepreneurship. Anybody here know what Y Combinator is? Show of hands. So Y Combinator, look it up. It's a strange spelling. It started in around 2006, 2007, I think. And it was this approach to let's give a small amount of money to businesses. Now, these are not media businesses. There are some that have come through it. Reddit has come out of there, Airbnb, Stripe. Has anybody heard of any of these companies? Yeah. They have, look up the Y Combinator success stories, and it is a long, long list of companies that have gone on to greatness and very large, but lots and lots of other ones that have been successful, and invariably the founders that are involved with it. They usually take somewhere between 20 and 30,000 applications, and they select 10 companies to enter the program. With great pride, I will tell you, like I said, I point to our students when they succeed. We've had 2 of those out of my program from somewhere around 125 teams that I've had over the years that I've worked with in my classes and such. So that one's a big one. Techstars, I've had them on Shark Tank, or what is the version of it that's here? I have a love-hate relationship with the Shark Tank shows. Is it a Dragon's Den? Lion's Den, Dragon's Den is another. I think this is the Canadian one, Dragon's Den. I'm like, why a dragon? That's imaginary, isn't it? Maybe it's not. I've had former students that are on the, listed as amazing. I'm going to tell you all of them, whether they start a thing and succeed, as the business succeeds, or start something and it fails, they succeed. It changes how they think about all of this area of media and development and creativity. The ones that have failed ended up over here. You might have not recognized some of those companies. That's really great, because then I bring them in to talk about their failure and how they ended up at Apple or at Roku. And that, so for the students in the room again, know that that's what failure looks like. That's pretty good. Even the White House, the head of the press corps, was one of my students who did a startup and then put it aside and went on to be the head of the press corps at the White House. I'm like, well, you sound like a failure to me. Just the White House, really? And so anyway, I do, the short one is coaching, courses, and connections. If any of these are of interest to anybody, come talk to me, because you can tell you don't have to wind me up. I get going pretty quick. What I'm going to be here to tell you about today is what's happening in this space of media. And I've always broken media down into these 3 biggies. The news and information. So news is journalism. It could be analysis. It could be all those kinds of elements that we're familiar with. But I go a little further, and I look at it as Yelp. And that's information I use to help me in my life. And it's sort of a bigger general area. I look at the advertising, the persuasion media, as everything advertising. I used to tell my students, advertising is dead. And my advertising colleague professors would come to me and say, why are you telling them that? I go, got their attention, didn't it? Yeah. And then they need to remake what the advertising industry is. It's not placing ads as much as finding partnerships and ways to get their story and their message out instead of just pushing their brand. Then all the entertainment ones. So let's see what's happened here. Over the last few years, almost everything has been focused on distribution. And I'm sorry, my mic is sliding off my head. That's probably because I have no hair. But the idea is distribution and consumption. Where and how it's been distributed and where it's consumed has consumed us for the last 15 years or so, almost 20 years now, in the media space. And I remember a meeting I was in 1993. I'll clean up the language because I'm a New York, New Jersey person here, right? Clean up the language. Yeah. Michael Bloomberg was in the meeting, and we were showing some advanced web capabilities. And he said, I think the internet is bull. You guys figured out the rest of that. And he was right in 1993, but he kept track of it. And if you look at what Bloomberg has done, they are immersed in the internet. He was looking at, is this the distribution channel I should be using or not? And basically all of these areas in the middle have changed. What we're about to see is a disruption at the front of it. We're going to see how creation of all kinds of media are going to have an even bigger effect, I think. I think we're going to look back at the 2007 to 2020 as the good old days. Do you remember that? How easy it was to do the transformation and deal with the disruption? I think based on what we're starting to see happening here in the creativity side, how things are created is going to completely remake all of that again. I keep turning my head, and I think that's the problem. So I will try not to turn my head. I'll be like a robot. How's that? What we're looking at are what is still happening, but is already in place. It's not so much the future, it's the present, but still happening. Direct to consumer. So Disney, as an example of a company, it used to make its money by distributing its product, and then I would take that product and I would go and give it to the distributor, but you would give your money to the distributor, whether it's the television company, the cable company, the movie theaters. Now they're going direct. Journalism, you're seeing it in direct. It's actually quite a few of the publications have figured this out better than a lot of the bigger media companies, more established media companies. They're all saying, I have to earn your trust and your want for my product. And if you don't think that changes the triangulated way that advertising used to be my real customer, they're the ones that pay the money, or the carriage fees that I get off the cable company, they're really my customer. My product now has to have a customer who's willing to pay for it. Netflix showed that and has had an early lead in that, and now all the others with streaming, et cetera, are catching up. End of social media. I love telling this one to my students because I feel like I'm putting daggers in their hearts as soon as I say it. Social media is dead. Yeah, there we go. It's because it's not social. It's recommendation engines. So people on TikTok are not being social. They're not antisocial. They're just consuming media. It's just becoming pure media is how I look at it. And what we've been doing is looking at how that then changes from a social graph of who's following whom and what are my friends looking at. That is the old world. The new one is it's non-social media. It's consumer media personalized to different devices, but it's not built on a social graph anymore. Less and less. Does anybody remember the Kardashians saying, please keep Instagram as Instagram? That was them pleading, do not change Instagram into a recommendation engine. Because we have all these followers and we'd like to keep making them billions of dollars monetizing them. Next one, aggregated niches. I really am. I got to change my headset a little here or something, loosen up the wire. Aggregated niches. The mass media we've taken it away probably in the 80s and 90s. We started not calling it that. But the idea of a niche, an aggregated set of niches, is what we're starting to see is happening. And almost everything I'm going to be talking about here is in some of those classes that I've given, the trend spotting class in particular for the last 10 years plus, where we look at and the students then do reports on what is going on in the media. I'm anxious to talk to anybody who's a researcher who wants to do some work here, but by and large, I find the students are sort of tabula rasa to what's going on in the industry because they're untethered to the past and they're willing to look at things with new eyes and exuberance. Aggregated niches, digital to real. I am a believer the metaverse is coming. I just don't think it's coming soon. So I'll be on the record with, Zuck's version of the metaverse. That's because Zuck doesn't want to be sitting at a congressional hearing. He would rather be in this reality, this virtual reality, than the reality that he has personally. I kind of believe the real is still pretty good. And how do I take digital and make real better, as well as make me better in a real world. And I see those kinds of things. Come talk to me if that's of interest. Anybody here into auto racing? No. Okay, then you're all safe. I'm working with a startup in auto racing that is doing that. They're taking gamers and putting them in real cars, and then they're going to start a real racing league, an auto racing league, that will take, and everybody in that league will have come up through gaming. Transferable skills. A little terrifying, isn't it? They've done it 125 times and no accidents. The idea of immersive and experiential, I would kind of group these ones together, as a lot of traditional media has now embraced all of that. And down here, I'm going to tell you these three are the advertising industry and the public relations industry has really embraced these. And they're creating more immersive experience, try to say let's do pop-up shops so that I'm doing digital to real and real to digital, those kinds of things. And then branded media, this is the one I was talking about earlier, is don't sleep on that. I think brands are going to realize they need to pay attention more to the audience than to just their market and their customers. And if they pay attention to their audience, hello, that's actually authentic. I care about, REI is one of the ones I like. They care that you have a nice hike or a good camping experience. Do they want you to buy their product? Sure. If our product's good, if you need it, buy it. But we care more that you are my audience who wants to go for a good hike. And you've done it a lot, and I'm going to make it better. Or it's your first time hiking. Great. I've got materials for you. That's sort of the media mindset of the new kinds of brands and advertising approach. And then the creator economy. I'm going to get into this one more. You've seen some things on it, but right now I think we're at the moment where it's not going to be the big movies that take the world again. I think those are old measurements that we're kind of hung up on, the blockbuster film, the leading published book. All these measures are old measures. What are the new measures will need to be, they have to emerge as well. So I think in the creator economy, we're going to see lots and lots of smaller successes that are actually more meaningful and may even last longer. Here's the ones that are coming. Has anybody here heard about AI? Yeah? So here's one that you maybe didn't hear. OpenAI launched GPT-3, and it was not a product. Look it up. It was a research initiative. So how many people here has had a research initiative that they started and got 150 million people who said, I'd like to participate? No? No hands? Anybody? No? Okay, I know that's how popular research is, right? So doesn't happen much. But that would be a great indicator the market wanted it. It was pulled into the market. Unlike Zuck, who did his Meta renaming and his Metaverse thing, I'm always going to make fun of Zuck. It's a requirement of every talk I give. And lost $500 billion of value in Meta from the time he launched it until probably my last check was about a month ago. I think it's popped up a little bit, but we're going to use the old data because it fulfills my needs. Is that how you're supposed to do research? I'm sorry. No, probably not. But the idea that AI, and I'm going to say, always call it generative AI. We are not at artificial general intelligence. It may not be for another 5 to 15 years. Like somebody says, oh, ChatGPT threatened me. No, it wrote a threatening note because it's really good at threatening notes. Like it looked at all the threatening notes ever written and they said, this one's really pretty good. So you felt threatened, but it can't threaten you. You with me on this? This is generative stuff. This is what we're going to be using. And I tell my students, you're not going to lose your job to an AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who's working with AI. So you're in college. What should you do? Maybe you should be working with this generative AI as your tool so that when you get hired as a researcher at a media company, you say, I have a team. Excuse me? You're 20-nothing and you have a team? Yes, I have a team and I work with these generative AI and I use them these different, you're hired. Because that is going to be the one that is going to take the job. It's somebody who's working with. Can I give an AI story? I'm okay on time? You know how I go. I'm like, so computers can beat people in chess and in Go, right? Almost 100% of the time now. But how can you beat the computer? Anybody guess? You can turn it off. That's actually the greatest one of all, because you could set the building on fire and you'll get out, but the computer won't. It'll sit there going, I'm waiting for your move. But what I'm going to tell you is they've been doing some research that it's a person, a chess player, a chess master, working with the computer beats the computer sometimes. Often enough that it's at least competitive. And that is because the person might say, yeah, that's probably the proper move, but let's do this one. Because humans do that kind of thing. And that is the advantage that we're going to see with generative AI. Cloud and remote production, the idea that everybody doesn't have to be in the control room. Beautiful control room back there, by the way. This is a virtual control room. Has anybody seen some of the virtual studios? Anybody watch Mandalorian? Show of hands. Mandalorian was filmed in a studio and then wrapped around with high resolution, I think it's 8K LED screens that are throwing light on the subject proper to the scene. So I'm now in a desert, or I'm now in a frozen planet. I can create those spaces in the studio. Lower cost, higher utilization. All the business people will be drooling when they get to these things, and they're starting to come out now. I know a couple startups that are doing it. Computational imaging and synthetic media. This is the deep fakes. Bad, 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 bad. You know, it's actually a tool. If you use it in a bad way, it's bad, just like pretty much any tool. And the idea that you could use this tool to say, I'm going to create an enhanced version of this scene or whatever. I think we're going to see lots more of that. Don't sleep on the blockchain. A lot of people are saying, oh, no, that's over. NFTs were nonsense. They're all tests. So is anybody here using a portal from the 1990s? Remember I told you I'm a time traveler from the past? Come on, somebody's still on AOL. Because that was the entry to the internet. So that isn't a thing anymore. But if back in the 90s, that's what everybody tried. That was the NFT of its day. All those blockchain technologies, you apply them in the media space, it changes the ownership structure and the distribution structure enormously. And then the last one, I'm not a complete anti AR, VR, I am kind of you can close that one off. I'm more over there. I'm like, how can we advance what's going on in the real physical space? Metaverse, it's coming, but the one I'm going to tell you is, I'm going to rattle through these slides real quick. How much time do I have? I do? Oh, okay, so what's everybody up to? Where are you guys from? Anybody here from Seattle? No, sorry. A lounge lizard that I am. The creator economy, this is the definition I've been using. It's almost this gig economy that has been around and proven, but is not enormously satisfying. I mean, it works. It has its purpose. People would say, oh, I drive for this, for Bolt, or I sell my stuff on eBay and things like that. It's maybe not, it's practical and purposeful, but it's not life-affirming, as I would say. But if you add what has been happening on social media, reduce the nonsense, increase the magic, you get the creator economy with the capabilities of the gig economy. And we're going to create, I believe, a robust middle class of creators who care about the content, the story. I hate content. Story, the film, the show, the podcast, all those things that we create as in the media space, and they're going to care about it, not care about followership. Well, how many people viewed it? And how many? Okay, we better look at the scoreboard occasionally, right? Because that's how you make a living. But if you're only focused on the scoreboard, you're a terrible athlete. Any sports people? So do you watch the scoreboard the whole time you're playing? No. But that's what's happening in social media. Like, where are my follows? Where are my... Pay attention to the game. Pay attention to the product. And I think that's what we're going to see. There's lots and lots of other ones that I haven't added here. Some of my favorites is this, where I get into my talk about the students. Kelsey is, in fact, today at my school talking to students about the creator economy. And she said, I have to see you. Are you here? And I said, no, I'm out of the country. But I'll fly back for you, because you better with her. She's tough. And she's going to be talking to them about how Gen Z has the opportunity to be a new kind of media owners. Small ones, large ones, etc. And you only get in by getting in. Don't wait on the side. Some of the other ones that I've had as students, these are creative businesses. I'm going to point out Noah down here in New York. What Noah is doing was he started as an influencer in the tennis world. He played tennis. He knows tennis. So he'd be that sideline reporter who would give you the insight of what's going on. But then when he wasn't on camera, he would do a whole bunch of things in TikTok and in Instagram. Because think about, anybody who watches sports knows, what are those people doing? They're not, they're down on the sidelines the whole game. I want that job. I'm a sport guy. I want to just see the game. He's not watching the match. He's doing a little of that. But what he's doing is he's saying what's going on the sidelines that other people are interested in. Guess what started happening? His recognition for being the online traditional media broadcaster on the sidelines of the US Open, for example, was here. And rising was all that he was getting in attention in Instagram, on Twitch. He was trying everything, which is great. He apparently, I said some magic words to his mom as he was graduating, that she said, okay, I know you want to start this thing. Professor Branagan said you should do it, and I can't tell you what it is I said to her, but whatever it is, I need to find it and use it more and more, because they've supported him in the first year, and now he's returning the support. He's doing really well, as are some of the other ones here. You can create just a lifestyle business, more like an influencer, but not focused on viewership or followership. And all of these, look at it as it's a platform from which I can do something else. So Tian, in particular, was in my class, and she came up at the end of class, and she said, you don't know who I am, do you? I said, no, I have no idea. And just a little moment of truth. And she said, I have 500,000 followers on Weibo, and but I didn't check today. It might have gone up. And she said, I'm really sick of it, though. It's such a grind. I said, what do you want to do? She says, well, I'm back here getting her master's because she wants to start a movie studio, a media company, a film company. She has a film company now. And she uses that platform as her way to get people to be aware of the shows they're doing. But what she and I keep in touch with a lot of my former students, is what she and some of the others are doing is saying, how do I not just use it as a marketing mechanism? Do I actually do the show in those platforms? That's the trend. So I did this in my class. I'm going to do it here. How many of you have watched a full-length movie on TikTok? So put the hands up, because this is really good, because other people are like, what? A full-length movie on TikTok, right? Well, what was it? Or a show?
It was a movie. It was by Jojo Moyes, based on the book by Jojo Moyes. I can't remember his name.
But you watched the whole movie on TikTok. So you were sliding.
Yeah.
Okay, quote from my granddaughter just a couple of weekends ago to her father, I don't want to watch a movie on a big screen. I just want to sit here and watch the movie with you. And he's like, okay. She's 11. So when you were watching the movie, it was a split screen, right?
You mean like there was some other play?
There was something else going on while you watch it, right?
I don't think I have watched those two yet.
Yeah.
But that one there wasn't when I watched the full movie. It was just a movie, I think.
Oh, and you just were able to... Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed it because it's probably gone.
I'm just not skip all the boring bits.
That's right. You skip past the boring parts. It's really interesting, right? Which we wish we could do at the theater. Is there a fast forward on this thing? Like, this is the part I don't want to see. This is, where's the car chase? Come on. But you can do that now in TikTok. And when I did this in my class, about 40, 45 students, half the hands went up with a great enthusiasm, and the other half was horrified. What? Never heard of it. These are students. It is just breaking that this is the Napster, okay? The reason that it's split screen is so that the algorithm doesn't pick up that it's a pirated movie. So down here is a casserole being made or cutting paper or something. And up here is the show that you sweep through. And so I asked my granddaughter, what does she think? Why did this split screen? So I'm pretty sure it's the algorithm hack. And she said, because sometimes you're bored with the show, but you can look at a casserole. That's beautiful. So go make a TikTok show. Anyway, these are the kinds of people who are off doing that kind of stuff. The last one I'm going to give you as a highlight is Carmela Boinkin. We have a great program at the Newhouse School where we have interns placed at the Olympics. She went to the Olympics, at NBC for their major shows that are at 30 Rock in New York. And she came back after both those and talked to a colleague of mine who's one of the toughest journalism professors you'll ever get. I love her. And she said, Carmela, go down and see Shan. So Carmela comes down. She tells me, I was an intern at the Olympics. I was an intern at the Today Show. I said, who'd you meet? And she goes, and she's naming all these celebrities with this look I loved. Because she's like, I wasn't really impressed. What do you want to do? She says, well, I'm studying broadcast journalism, but I probably need to get a job in that. But I'd like to do something else. So we started getting her working on some other things that are really outside the lines. And she did a little project over a summer. It was the summer of COVID. It sounds so near and dear, the summer of COVID. She ended up getting a job as a broadcaster in a mid-market town, which is what most of our graduates did in that broadcast and digital journalism. And I would text her at 5 a.m. because I was up. So why do you think I text her at 5 a.m.? This young person with a life. Because if you get one of those jobs, you are up. You've been up for an hour. Getting hair and makeup and getting to your location so that you could do we're down here live, blah, 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 yeah. And you got to look peppy and ready. And I said, hey, how you liking life? And she goes, shut up, Shan. She said other things, I'll keep it clean. She is now head of TikTok for the Washington Post, where she is doing news in little TikToks. Look her up. It's both fun and informative. Imagine, you can have fun and informative together. I would like some of that, please. And then all the others. Mostly where I'm going to do is I'm going to end with this one last thought. I told you I'm a time traveler from the past. Well, I think we're at this same moment. This looks awfully familiar to me. 2007 was when so many things happened in the tech space. Ones that we saw, the mobile device, and a whole bunch of others. And I'm going to give you a couple examples. We saw Apple launch its iPhone. Android was released, is the largest platform still. Facebook and Twitter opened up. Facebook used to be only if you had a .edu. Twitter, I remember the launch of Twitter around 2007 at South by Southwest. It was on a flip phone. Your phones you'd all be sitting here, and all of a sudden I'd hear all throughout. Sounds like Twitter, doesn't it? That sounds like birds to me. I kind of liked it a little. But then the idea is all these things were happening that you could see. Yes, all these and more started. But underlying it, cloud computing, which had been around, GitHub, Hadoop, APIs and their capability all opened up underneath, making all that possible. And we had a financial crisis meltdown. You remember that? Does anybody remember that? Yeah. Let's see what's happening today. Well, we have, instead of the iPhone, we have the ChatGPT and all the generative AI. We got all kinds of other things happening. We got the Unreal Engine. Don't sleep on Unreal Engine. Don't sleep on NVIDIA. That's interesting. I've been a NVIDIA fan for years. Now it's a trillion-dollar company. The idea that you're going to see all of these things happening, and underlying web technologies are those things I was talking about before, including no-code tools. How many times I have heard students say to me, I would build this, but I need a coder. No, you don't. You just move things around. It makes the application. These are the things that are there and available for our students, for us in our businesses, for our careers. And then there was a little bit of a U.S. bank meltdown with Silicon Valley Bank. I just like the parallel. Do I need to leave that one up? I love that you're taking pictures of it. That's it. If you want to know more, you can see I can go and go and go. Sorry if I went too long. Did I? I'm okay. I filled the additional space. Thank you. Should I take questions? Yeah. Let's do questions. And no questions allowed on social media is dead. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question. Who saw the Barbie movie? Who went to Beyonce this summer? Because I'm looking for who puts their hands up for all three. Who saw Taylor Swift? If you're wondering, are women big in media? I think the answer is yeah, a little. In fact, Beyonce coming to Finland gave a blip on the economic reading. They couldn't figure why the economy boomed for such a short amount of time. It was because Beyonce was in town. When the Swifties were at a concert, I think in California, they thought, uh-oh, we're going to have an earthquake because they saw a little tremor from the Swifties jumping around at the stadium. The power of women in media is untapped. Sadly, as the data showed, completely wrong. It is a massive market, and the Barbie movie is the number one movie ever, maybe, and it's a woman director and creator. So, yeah, let's get rid of old white men. Delete. Yes. It's one of those things where I always say, first off, every technology is going to have good and bad. And so there'll certainly be some bad actors and bad uses of it, et cetera. I have one colleague who says, I hate the fact that the AI is using my past work to put me out of my future work. And I think that's a bit harsh, but it's not entirely wrong. I think somebody who is going to write a story is going to read her stuff and then write that story having learned something from what she wrote. So that already is happening. This is just doing it at scale. And that will mean the impact could be much larger. I think we're going to see a lot of pluses and a lot of minuses with it. But your question was, are you going to see it take away my job? Yeah, I think we're going to have to sort a lot of it out. We're going to sort out the ownership aspect. And the legal, by the way, isn't going to lead. It's going to follow. So it's going to be people will do things, and then the legal will work out probably 5 to 10 year trailing trailing set, figure out the legal stuff. The other one is, as you were talking about, am I going to, I'm sorry, I'm stumbling on the question because I keep forgetting it. I'm sorry. Say it again.
Can you turn the microphone, please?
I also forgot it. I'm kidding. So basically, we still have this debate about this AI factor in industry, in creative process. And some people absolutely don't believe it. I mean, the old-fashioned people who think, okay, you know, it's killing talent. It's a human effort which makes this value in this industry. So we have debate. But at the same time, some people say, you know, it's a cool tool. We just need talent to use it properly. And everyone is right.
So you know where I am a techno-optimist generally, but I'm also a believer in human beings, and I think they almost always, I shouldn't say that almost always, they more often than not do the good thing rather than the bad thing. And to me, they add value, and that's going to be, I think, will go up. At first, there will be a fascination with this was done in this efficient and productive and, you know, technically interesting way. And then we swing back. I've been watching this for a long time. There's this thing called high tech, high touch. It's whenever things get even more digital and technical, we tend to have farm to table. We tend to have, unplug and go be a real person more and more. So I think we're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. I do think the generative AI right away is going to lead to probably a 4-day work week and maybe even a 3-day work week, a lot quicker than people think. That means we're going to have a lot more time to consume things, do things that are human beings doing things. I think that's me being the optimist. I see that happening. Hope that answers where we were. We can talk more. Sorry if I didn't.
Thomas?
Yes, hello. Thank you, Shan, for this talk. I wonder what you do at your school to make students reflect about the potential impacts of their ideas. We see that digital technologies and media does not only have all the positive roles, but it has led to some problems concerning our democratic value systems. The wars and the current discrepancies that exist between countries are to some extent driven by the inventions, by the technologies that we have created, maybe without having laws in place first that could govern them. I mean, it's really nice to say that you think the laws will follow, but we can see already what happens to some extent in the US, where sort of companies such as Meta, such as Facebook, are facing legal allegations that cannot be answered by the legal frameworks. And though, you know, everybody seems quite positive, whereas here in Europe we are trying to sort of catch up on what the mess has been that we've created. So I wonder, what do you do at the program with your students to make them reflect about whether what they are going to launch, whether the next big thing is actually worth to launch, or whether there are risks that they should consider?
Yeah, thanks for that question. I got to give propers to Europe. You guys are way ahead of us in terms of dealing with this issue on privacy, on accountability for these platforms. I am, just to be on the record, I have no Meta applications in my life. So how many of you are on WhatsApp? How many are on Facebook? How many are on Instagram? I'm going to be cruel. You're part of the problem. You want it to stop, you have to change yourself first. I think that's one. The second one is, and it is hard. People will say, oh, how do you survive? I don't know, I'm here. I don't know what happened. My phone actually melted down the other day, so I'm here with even without a phone. What do I do with my students is in every one of our classes we have a full session that is about the ethics. I also talk about what are they afraid of. And invariably it's this. They're afraid of a whole bunch of things. And then I want them to take a historical perspective. A lot of these things have been happening before. I will correct one word, if you don't mind. You say they invented it. I don't think the platforms invented it. I think they accelerated it. And that is the problem, is that it's accelerated, it's everywhere faster, and that is my opinion is, that's the big problem right now that we see. But this problem has been around for a long time. I have an optimism about human beings that we will figure it out. So Churchill said, you can count on the Americans to do the right thing after exhausting all the other possibilities. So I think we're at the exhausting all the other possibilities moment. So I'm a little hopeful that that will happen. Hope that helped. Other questions?
Yes, okay. Henry Laser from Bournemouth University in England.
Hey, Henry.
So we spoke earlier about, and I agree with you with your take on the creator economy and the creative industry of small units developing content, if you will, information and such. And you call it the economy. Does that assume that it's advertising based, or is it subscription, or where does the revenue come from for all these new entrepreneurial activities in the creative or the creator economy?
So the true answer is I sure don't know, and I don't think anybody else knows yet. They're trying to figure that out. I will say there's a model to look at. It's the movie industry. And if you look, my evidence is look at the credits from a show in the 1950s or 60s, and it's over in about 2 minutes because the studio pretty much employed or owned everything that was needed in order to make this movie. So here's who we'd like to point out. Congratulations, yeah, goodbye. Now it goes on and on and on. I always sit through the credits. My kids used to hate me for it. I'm like, no, these are the people who made it. Yeah, we got to go. It's the caterer. It's the band who played for the caterer. It goes on and on and on because they're all independents. It is if you go to LA, people think all these people work for the big studios because they named that show they were a part of or that movie, when in fact they work for companies you never heard of, and sometimes it's their own. So I would look for those kinds of things to happen. And where does the money come from? It's going to come from multiple sources. Some of it certainly will come from brands. I don't think it'll be advertising, as in placing an interruption next to the thing I'm doing, unless it's a casserole. I'm sorry, just needed to throw out my love of casseroles. But I think we're going to see new ways of doing branded entertainment and maybe even branded co-production. So this is a meaningful film, and this brand wants to be associated with that, not in a in a shilling kind of way, selling my stuff, but in a I want to be associated with this good, well-meaning story. Hope that helps. We can talk more on this.
I have a similar question that Henry had. So, you said that in the creator economy, the creators shouldn't be concerned about numbers of subscribers and followers and focus on the story. But exactly, where does how can you not? You want to create visibility, right? You want to create visibility for your stories. And how can you not then care the numbers of followers you're having?
So Followship then gives power to that centralized system and platform you're on. So if I'm going to say, oh, it's all about Followship, and I want different owners, I am on YouTube, I am creating Followship that's going to be monetized by Google through YouTube to me, and I take the advertising off of that. So I'm going to say, where are the other revenue lines? Getting a little businessy on this. How about speaking engagements? How about working as an advocate in this thing that you might be interested in? There are others and different ways that you can create as an individual, but also as a small company. I encourage you to look at Molly Burke. She's a YouTuber out of Canada. She is the model for me. Because you look at it, it's a pretty nice followership. I always like looking, what was her followership before people started paying attention to her? It was modest, to say the least. But her business is not modest. She's blind. And she is on camera, blind. Blind. My wife teaches blind and visually impaired students, and I sent her the link, said, just look at it, don't ask me about it. She comes down fascinated how many things Molly does so well that Lynn teaches. And her followership is modest. She's probably got advertising or something that comes through YouTube as a revenue line, But her bigger revenue lines are all the other things she's doing, speaking engagements, et cetera, which come from this platform.
Yeah.
She got an offer to do a television show. And I love the way she delivered it, knowing that she's blind. She said it was MSNBC, so it's an NBC major network in the United States. And she goes like this, "Really? You think that's going to get me to come to you?" And she's taking old world measures of, they thought, oh, she would love to be on the big screen and the real TV world. And instead, she's saying, no, I have my team, my staff, I control my story, I'm doing the things I want to work on, and just for the record, that number's not enough. So she's making enough money with this small or at least modest followership because she's looking at it as multiple revenues. That's the kind of thing that I want to teach, which is how do you look at it as a business person?
So multiple revenues also as a reaction to dependence, like these algorithms, recommendation system that you don't control. So you can have all these followers, but you're still not visible, right? Because there is like algorithms choosing you or not. So right. I think so the key would then also to be takeaway, like exactly that, to have a portfolio of different revenue streams and not to rely
on multiple platforms,
not to depend
right.
on somebody else's algorithm to make you visible or not. Okay. Any other takeaways you would have for the students here?
I had one big one that I was going to add a slide. I had this sunset picture. I think we may look back in 5 years, maybe a little bit longer, as the Barbie movie was this great, big, hot pink sunset moment of the traditional movie industry. Big studios, big budgets, lots of spend. And I think we're going to have a completely different thing. We're going to look back at that as that was the amazing sunset right before the sun goes down.
Do we have, somebody had the question? So is the microphone with you, Elena? So, one more question here, comment? Here, Hannah.
Good, I feel like I did it. I got her. So we got to...
Yeah, I was wondering if you have any thoughts about the size of the market, because you're talking from an American perspective, of course you do, and you talk about a very large home market with one language. And if you go to Europe, you have this cacophony of national languages and quite small markets. So what is, maybe it's following up on what Thomas asked, we are very dependent on a very active state intervention, that the states and the EU do stuff in order to stimulate an industry within perhaps media and other things. So do you have any thoughts about that cooperation with political forces like that?
A lot to be done, first off. But I have a couple of ideas. One is to create that creator economy. Right now it's not a place. It's everywhere, and it's just, probably major media areas like LA and New York and London and such are probably best at that right now. But they're not really serving the creators that are everywhere. And I'd say that's an open opportunity, is to create elements so that these small creators are there instead of government money to try to get the big company to do a movie or to come here and set up their operation. Like, let's just get a whole bunch of little wins instead of all this grand win mindset. I would add what I'm seeing is that U.S. media companies have missed the international market. So I think you're going to see, and we've already seen signs of that, is especially European companies in media coming and buying into the U.S. market. And I think we're going to see the reverse. And when that happens, that's at the big level, but I think that opens up a lot of possibilities. And then I'm going to say the language one is where the generative AI thing can be really interesting. Two companies I'll point out. One's called Hour One. I hate this because I have to then spell it out. It's not Hour One. It's HOURONE.AI. And what they do is they create a digital version of a presenter. And that presenter can now present in, I think the latest number is 65 different languages, where the mouth moves according to the pronunciation of those languages. So that answers some of that localization. A more tangible one is Spalk TV, SPALK.TV. And what Spalk does is that it creates for streaming that I could have somebody in one location give play-by-play and commentation on a live event, usually sports, and then it goes over, and now I get a pick which language I want. Ultimately, it'll be, I would like someone who's funny. I would like somebody, because why do we have this singular broadcast mindset of here's the official presenter of this sport, maybe in 5 languages. So why not in 65? So those are some quick answers, but lots more to be done there and lots of opportunity there. So I see it's a problem with opportunity inside it. I'm an optimist. Thanks so much. Is that good? Oh, no, more?
Eleanor,
Yeah.
still jumping to somebody who is having a question.
Hi. I find the sort of split screen Netflix or like movie on TV thing kind of on TikTok. Oh my God, kind of terrifying, especially as a film student.
A little terrifying?
Yeah, like
Yeah?
you know, to reduce it all to this, you know, just random video that you watch while you're in the bathroom or something.
Right? Yeah,
And I
invariably,
guess
right?
It's sort of like a trend of how media has been moving, you know, from like movies to TV shows to YouTube to this like 30-second reels, and just constantly like lowering our attention spans. So do you think this is like this sort of shortening of the format? Is that gonna keep going on, and is this like a sustainable future for media if we just can't? We have to constantly find more catchy content that is over in 1 minute. Like, where is that going?
Oh, wow, that's a beauty question. I love it because I don't know, is my first answer. And then the second part is, so some of the things that I do is I watch my grandkids and what are they doing? Because that'll indicate what their market is, because they've gotten used to things like this. So my granddaughter's, she's 11. When she said that, I went, I kind of think it's a thing. I don't think she's standing there by herself, alone, making a statement that nobody of her age would make. I think she's probably with the crowd on this, that they don't want to have the long, drawn-out movie and all of the things with that. They may occasionally, but I think you're going to see it as snippets. Anybody know the company Quibi? You remember them? They were around for about 45 minutes. Wasn't that amazing, right? Oh, it had everything. It had money. It had talent. It had Larry Katzenberg. Was it Larry Katzenberg? Did I get his name right? Anyway, Katzenberg, which most people don't know who Katzenberg is. If you do SGK DreamWorks, you know DreamWorks, and the S is Spielberg, the K is Katzenberg. So they built this company, billions of dollars, all on your point, tiny versions of shows. Hired the best people, had story being done by script writers, doing all the things like traditional studios would do for this new area. It failed. And he said it's because of COVID, because nobody wanted short videos. And all I could think is, I don't know, has he heard of TikTok? And it was actually, I think what killed it is the arrogance of Hollywood. We know story. We know how to do it. We're going to get the right people. We're going to bank it so that it's only done by somebody who's spending this amount of money. Meanwhile, the TikTokers are over here with, you know, getting a loop light for $15 or whatever, and getting, filming it on their phone and beating this billion-dollar operation, multi-billion-dollar funded operation. So I think the short stuff is going to stay. It'd be my guess. How long? Just like anything else. This stuff's coming and going probably faster than we're used to. So it might be around for, I'm going to guess, maybe 3 or 4 years. And then that might get boring. Like, we don't want to do that anymore. We want to do something else. So our job then becomes, in media, is give the people what they want and bring them to a new place. So.
Actually, we are running out of time, but Sean will be here all day.
I'm around
he's
and
also,
can't shut up.
We're having a break now. We're taking a coffee break. There's coffee, food, etc. outside. And we are returning here at 11:25, so in 15 minutes. Thank you so much, Sean. That was really
Thanks for having me.
interesting.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.